If you cast your minds back to earlier this year, you'll know that I know a thing or two about double crosses. Thankfully, I was eventually able to come out on top of the greatest angle in YouTube history, but WhatCulture isn't the only place for conspiracy and cunning. WWE love a good double cross angle. It's their bread and butter, except the butter's made of human blood and the bread's made of Triple H's false promises. I'm not as good at metaphors as Blompier is, but nevertheless, I'm Jack from WhatCulture.com, and here are the 10 most shocking double crosses in the history of WWE. Number 10, Triple H turns on Randy Orton. Imagine if you had a younger brother who was like taller and much better looking and way more like handsome, and all the girls loved him and he was just such a bad boy, and he just won the World Heavyweight Championship from Chris Benoit at SummerSlam 2004. You'd hate him too, right? Yeah, I thought so. Triple H double crosses everyone, that much is clear. But in the case of Randy Orton in 2004, I can sort of understand why. The game swerved Orton in the middle of his post-victory celebration on Raw. The young champ's stablemates beat him down mercilessly before skipping off into the sunset, and Triple H never turned on any of his friends ever again. Never, ever again. Number 9, Vince McMahon turns on The Rock. WrestleMania 2000, or as I like to call it, McMahon Mania, saw a fatal four-way match between The Rock, Triple H, Mick Foley, and The Big Show. In The Rock's corner, Vince McMahon. In Triple H's corner, his wife, Stephanie McMahon, Helmsley. In Mick Foley's corner, he had Linda McMahon, and in Big Show's corner, he had cousin Yeti McMahon. Sorry, Shane McMahon. Shane O'Mac. The match came down to the game and the Brahma Bull, and saw Vince turn on his charge, smashing him with 2 chair shots, and that allowed Triple H to make the cover and retain his WWF Championship. Although now I think about it, it probably would have been nice to see the pedigree end the match and make Triple H look strong, rather than the boss. Maybe this influenced Triple H's decision to basically win matches for his heel buddies, such as Randy Orton and Kevin Owens in recent years. On to the next point now, and I promise that this one doesn't involve Triple H at all. Number 8, Randy Savage turns on Hulk Hogan. Remember just like a few minutes ago when I compared Randy Orton to a cooler, sort of better looking younger brother? I'm about to do another one, so strap yourselves in. Let's take this train to Metaphor City, bitch. Now imagine for a second that you've got a lovely girlfriend. She's pretty, loyal, and helps you out in wrestling matches. Now imagine that Hulk Hogan comes sniffing around trying to get a piece of that action, and of course she's like, oh my god, it's Hulk Hogan, he's so, he's such a hero, but we're just friends, don't worry, he's not in my DMs or anything. But you know he is. You know he's totally all up in her DMs. You know that he likes her, because after you accidentally hit her during that tag match you were in, he actually abandoned you and escorted her to the back for medical attention. Okay, that was a bit of a literal metaphor rather than more of a symbolic one, but I'll get the hang of it soon, I promise. Anyway, you'd double-cross him too, right? Like, you'd totally double-cross him, even if he was a close friend. Of course you would. That's exactly what Randy Savage did on February 3rd, 1989. The Macho Man cracked Hogan in the back of the head with the WWF Championship, turning heel and leading to the explosion of the Mega Powers. Or should that be implosion? It should. Number 7, the barbershop window shot heard around the world, I guess. Shawn Michaels turns on his tag team partner, Marty Jannetty. The Rockers were, of course, one of the coolest teams of the Golden Era, and one of the best never to win the WWF Tag Team Championship. They had long hair, they were high-flying, they got in trouble backstage for partying too much. Like, it was the 80s and early 90s, so everyone partied too much back then, but presumably the Rockers got more heat because they looked better when they were doing it. Not doing it like that, but also when they were doing it as well, like that. They're so cool, the Rock, they're so awesome. The dynamic of the tag team was a simple one. Jannetty would get the shit beaten out of him, and then Michaels would come in and save the day, and quite often they'd still lose. It was never a relationship built to last, and things eventually came to head in early 1992. On an episode of Brutus Beefcake's Barbershop, that's Miz TV to you awful f***ing millennials, Michaels superkicked his partner and threw him headfirst through the barbershop window. History tells us that HBK went on to become one of the greatest superstars of all time, but Jannetty didn't fare as badly as people assume. He actually won that elusive tag team championship alongside the 1-2-3 Kid, maybe better known as X-Pac, in 1994, although their reign only lasted a week. He also won the Intercontinental Championship from Michaels in 93, although he lost it back to HBK a few weeks later. Long live the Rockers, the best tag team ever, apart from Edge and Christian. Yes, I'm incredibly biased. Number 6, Owen Hart turns on his brother BRET. Another early 90s classic saw the Hart family torn apart as younger brother Owen turned on BRET at the 1994 Royal Rumble, booting him in his injured leg after failing to win the tag team titles from the Quebecers. The pair would go on to enjoy one of the defining feuds of that period, with Owen defeating BRET in the opening match of WrestleMania 10, only for BRET to go on and win the championship from Yokozuna in the main event, while Owen watched jealously on from ringside. How good is that booking? The New Generation era often gets a bad rap because it fell in between sort of the golden era and the Attitude era, the two historic peaks of WWE's history. However, there are some things in the mid-90s that are just too good to deny, and the feud between Bret and Owen is certainly one of them. Owen would then go on to win King of the Ring that year and declare himself King of the Hearts, and the pair would clash numerous times throughout 1994. Bret always got the upper hand, but Owen did cost him a title match against Bob Backlund. Bob Backlund, surely that is the greatest humiliation of all. Number 5, Sergeant Slaughter turns on the good old US of A. Turning on a tag partner is one thing, turning on a sibling is quite another, but imagine turning on an entire nation, especially the nation of America, which, as we all know, is the greatest nation in the history of the universe. NASCAR, talking hot dogs, children's beauty pageants, WrestleMania, not being able to hold your alcohol properly, pretending to be drunk even though you've had like 3 beers. Yeehaw, you know, all the American stuff, you know. Anyway, if you'll excuse that little rant, Sergeant Slaughter, the ultimate patriot, turned on his nation in the early 90s, aligning himself with Iraqi sympathizer General Adnan, and actually winning the WWF Championship at one point, almost entirely so Hulk Hogan could beat him for it at WrestleMania 7, aka America Fest. And for all of those worried that this might not be too problematic, things only got even less politically sensitive when the Iron Sheik joined Slaughter's group as Colonel Mustafa, because, you know, Iran and Iraq, it's just one letter difference, yeah? They're basically the same. They're really, really not the same. Number 4, Andre the Giant turns on Hulk Hogan. In the early years of WWF's golden period, Hulk Hogan and Andre the Giant were totally tight, yo, because what's a better babyface pairing than the biggest man in wrestling and the actual biggest man in wrestling? In 1987, though, Andre began to envy the Hulkster, especially when Hogan was awarded a massive trophy for his 3-year reign as champion, while Andre was given a much smaller one for his 15-year undefeated streak. In fairness, maybe the trophies were actually the same size, and Andre's just looked smaller in his big colossal arms. Did anyone check that? Did anyone check that for him? Things came to a head on a Piper's Pit segment. That's the Ambrose Asylum for you goddamn millennials! Just watch the WWE Network one time for Oh, okay. Andre ripped off Hogan's shirt and the golden crucifix around his neck before challenging him to a match at WrestleMania 3. This, of course, led to the body slam heard round the world, which in turn led to wrestling going Super Saiyan and taking over the universe. Number 3, Stone Cold Steve Austin turns on the WWF. No, I'm not referring to Austin taking his ball and going home in 2003. I'm referring to the kayfabe time he took his ball and went over to the enemy's side in 2001. WWF had a problem during the invasion angle. They'd missed out on WCW's biggest stars, such as Hogan, Nash, Sting, Goldberg, Jarrett. The obvious solution was to build the major stars that they'd scooped, such as Booker T, DDP, Lance Storm, and ECW's Rob Van Dam. In the eyes of an only partially familiar audience, they thereby book them strong and generate a new heel force to take on the WWF's mega babyfaces. It maybe would be a little bit more difficult and take a little bit more time, but the rewards would be exponentially greater. That's not quite what happened, is it? Instead, they just turned Austin heel again. Stone Cold turned on his WWF boys at the Invasion pay-per-view, hitting Kurt Angle with the stunner to give the Alliance the victory. The major problem here is that it didn't really make sense. Austin had been infamously underappreciated during his time in WCW in the 90s, yet here, he was proudly sporting a t-shirt bearing the promotion's name. He also claimed that the fans didn't appreciate him, which is patently untrue, and that Vince was grooming Kurt to take his spot as top dog. But since when did Austin care about what anyone else thought? That's against the very fabric of his character. The angle came to an end when Austin lost the deciding fall to The Rock at Survivor Series 2001, causing the Alliance to disband and the Invasion storyline to mercifully come to an end. He then turned face again in the only way he knows how, by hitting Vince McMahon with a Stone Cold Stunner and celebrating with some beers. Get the bevs in, Stone Cold, get the cans in, phone up the Beerington Bevs. Number 2, Stephanie McMahon turns on Vince McMahon. Triple H has always been a more natural heel than a babyface, and we've seen several incarnations of his bad guy act, from pompous blue blood during his early WWF years, to the I win all the time mega champ from the mid-2000s, to corporate bastard in more recent years as well. But in 1999, Triple H was less arrogant, powerful bad guy, and more legitimately the evilest man in the world. How evil? He drugged his boss's daughter and forced her to marry him in what was a very questionable ceremony, given the fact the bride was clearly unconscious at the time. However, it all turned out to be a double cross. Yes, another double cross involving Triple H, as Stephanie revealed herself to be on Triple H's side all along during a bloody brawl at Armageddon 1999. That was the infamous Triple H v Vince McMahon match, which stretched on for 28 minutes. Imagine fighting Triple H for your daughter's honour for half an hour. Seriously, the match lasted 28 minutes, only to find out that she was on his side all along. That's absolutely crushing, to be honest. And number 1, Seth Rollins turning on the Shield. Finally, let's look at a more recent example, probably the best double cross in modern times. That's right, it's Seth Rollins' betrayal of Ambrose and Reigns, and yes, it also features Triple H. After decimating Evolution is a mystery, in successive pay-per-view matches, the Shield faced off against the Authority on Monday Night Raw, only for Triple H to reveal that he had a plan B. That plan B turned out to be Rollins, who smacked Roman Reigns with a chair as Dean Ambrose looked on in horror. The double cross went on to basically shape the main event scene as we know it today and launch 1,000 heartbroken fan fictions. Seriously, check Tumblr. I imagine about 85% of all Tumblr is just Shield gifs, just Roman and Rollins and Ambrose just hugging and all the wet hair getting in each other's faces and mouths and just horrible red font across the front that says like brothers for life, friends forever, the Shield will remain. Even though they've broken up now, Tumblr is a grim... It's a grim... Anyway, that's all the time we've got for this list. I hope you've enjoyed the 10 biggest double crosses in WWE history. I've been Jack from WhatCulture.com. You can follow me on Twitter at Jack_the Jobber. Did we miss out your favourite double cross? Let us know in the comments section below, and I'll see you soon.